In 2021, Folk School Fairbanks launched a change effort aimed at better reflecting the existing diversity within the Fairbanks community. This change effort utilized a participatory action research approach in which community members from the existing school community and community members representing those populations not yet involved in the school joined together in dialogue and action planning. The group gathered in 6 virtual meetings to investigate the school's operations, create action plans, and act on the plans created. Each community member led a session based on their area of investigation and expertise. Change began immediately, and the momentum of the planning, action, observation, and reflection cycle continues today. The following presentation by Carrie Hamos describes the process, the actions taken, and the preliminary results.
Basic background is that this was the exact topic that we chose in Fairbanks for our Leading from the Roots Participatory Action Research. So it's great timing to be looking at this for the FEA also. I have a little bit of information on just the Fairbanks area, and these numbers are from the census, US Census website. We have a pretty large Alaska Native population here. We have, so that's 8.2%. And I mean, y'all can see the numbers. It is very predominantly a white community here, but there is a fair amount of diversity. We have an Army base right here in Fairbanks, and then we also have an Air Force base just south of town, which adds a lot to our diversity for sure. That east side of town is more diverse than our west side of town, definitely. The folk school started out on the west side of town, and for years we were in a like kind of off out of town in a wooded neighborhood, which was lovely. And 5 acres, it was super quiet. It was also not very accessible to a lot of folks in town, and a really long drive in the winter. So almost 3 years ago now, we moved into town, and we're right in the middle. Oh, there's my phone. In a public move for us with regard to accessibility. Voicemail will pick up. Okay, so at the folk school, our staff is 100% white. We have 2 women and 1 man. Board of directors, 100% white, heavily male. Our instructors, very heavily white, although we do have a good mix of genders. Students, I don't have a number for that, but we are definitely not representative of the community in any way. So that's why we were tackling this issue with our research. So Ryan, just so you know, so I assembled a working group, and we met, and it just happened that it was 6 women, and they were all sort of somehow connected to the folk school. I had a couple of instructors, a couple of students. It was a mix of white people and BIPOC. It was a great mix of people. And yeah, connections that they were either students, instructors, kind of friends of the folk school, or maybe a recommendation of someone else on the committee. So I really worked hard. We've had a really difficult time over the years getting involved with the Alaska Native community. And so I did manage to get one person on the working group. that is an Alaska Native woman, and so that felt fantastic. And here, so at our first meeting, I asked everyone on the group to just be honest and talk about what they saw the folk school as with regard to this topic, sort of as an outsider, even though they're not all outsiders. And these are some of the responses that I got. I don't see myself in your photos. The folk school feels like a social clique. That was mentioned more than once. It does not feel welcoming and inclusive to Black people. Cost is a barrier, a huge barrier for a lot of people. And one person thought that it has become predominantly white because word of mouth has been sort of the way that we've grown over the last 10 years or so, and that our founders are both white folks, and there just hasn't been a whole lot of outreach beyond that. And so those were the sort of wake up call words that my group threw at me during the first meeting, which was great. So what we did was we structured the meetings. After that first meeting, we kind of identified 5 topics that we were going to talk about: leadership, students, community outreach, topics like that. And then I asked members of the group to actually facilitate the meetings, so that I had a chance to step back and hopefully do more learning and not have to worry about facilitating every meeting. And it really hopefully gave them a fair amount of ownership in the process too. So the number one suggestion that came out of it was to diversify our photos, website, social media, print materials, everything. They just really felt like it was not inclusive at all. Heightening our sense of welcome. There was a feeling that we just don't do a good enough job of sort of breaking down that feeling of a social clique where somebody new comes to a class that they feel like, oh, everybody else knows each other and I'm this outsider. So they really wanted me to work on that, which that one is a little ambiguous, and I don't have any actions next to it because I'm not sure yet what that looks like. Third thing says diversify leadership and the student body will follow. So our idea was to diversify our board and committee and instructors, and then hopefully that would lead to a greater range of students. We've tried to get quite a few times, like reached out to different communities for our board of directors, and it never pans out. And we felt, the group felt like you're starting too big. Like board of directors is a huge commitment. Our board is a working board. We meet every month. And there are multiple times during the month where I contact someone and say, oh, this happened. What should we do? I need this or whatever. So it's a pretty big commitment. So they said, how about starting as a volunteer or committee work, and trying to kind of lead people to it rather than just jumping in. Share more about the board and make it accessible. We very rarely do board member highlights. Here's what they're doing. Thanks, board member Ryan, for joining us at our event or anything like that. It just doesn't happen much. And also seek out diverse instructors and make it work for them. Bend the rules a little bit, like maybe change the fee structure so that some instructors make it feel like it's worth their time. Or if our class proposal is online and they don't have good internet access, maybe they can just come in and talk about the class and I can get the details down, or just little things like that that might make it easier. More suggestions. Create more free digital content to bring in a younger audience, which is always kind of an issue. We have a lot of older students with money, And we have a university in our town, and we hardly ever have university students, but cost is really a barrier there. And so they thought maybe bringing in some of this free stuff and digital, and then maybe that would be like a stepping stone to further involvement. So same thing, social media, blog posts, bringing in guest bloggers, trying to ramp that up. Open house event. A lot of times people pop in if we're here and they just say, well, I've just never been in here before. I just want to look in the door, but actually like opening up so that people can see. And also call people. Like I'd say, well, I emailed that person, they didn't get back to me. Well, and they said, well, how many times did you email? Well, once, but they didn't get back to me. And they were like, no, that's not enough. Be persistent. And sometimes it takes a phone call, which I am always like, good gosh, if it can be an email, do not call me. But it's important to remember that not everyone feels that way. And a phone call to some people really makes it seem like you are actually really wanting them to be involved. So that was a good lesson for me. Let's see. Partner more with other local organizations. We do partner with quite a few, but we have never done anything with the NAACP or any like promotion of like Juneteenth events or anything like that. And also the Fairbanks Native Association. We've tried a few inroads with them, but and not been successful, but there's where the persistence will hopefully pay off eventually. And then financial barriers was a huge part of the plan for this working group. They would really like us to work toward a pay what you can structure, which would be huge. But at least we can start off with occasionally offering pay what you can classes, see how it works, get some data, and try and determine if we really could make the move to most of our classes being that. Offer more free, totally free and low cost classes. They another one that they felt like would be great is a bring a friend for free class, because it feels more comfortable if you can come to a class with someone that you know instead of walking into this unknown area. Target specific groups for free classes, like maybe the Fairbanks Native Association has a Head Start, maybe going in there and doing something just for that group, not like calling them and saying, hey, we have this class, would y'all like to join? But like, hey, we're coming to you and we're doing this thing for free, that kind of thing. We have a scholarship fund that we've had for years, and it just kind of languishes. And our structure is that people, like on the bottom of every class, it says, would you, do you need a scholarship to take this class? Contact Carrie. And I don't get contacted very often. And I think it's like my group felt like it was one step too much. So maybe utilizing the scholarship fund in a different way so that we could offer free, like a free class, but still pay the instructor. Like that's a way to use scholarship funds. Or for like a group, like if we were to do something with the Fairbanks Native Association, same thing, use scholarship funds to, it's like giving all those people a scholarship. They just didn't necessarily individually ask for it. Right. So we've been messing around with that a little bit, thinking how it might work. So what have we done so far? We got new RAC cards printed up for our Fairbanks Visitor Center, which I have an example to show y'all after this slide. New posters outside of our buildings, and changed the photos on the website. Was able to get all that done within the first few weeks. We have a big event in the spring called Woodfest, and I have a fantastic group of woodworkers that volunteers a huge amount of time to put on it. It's a lot of free demos for the community and a whole weekend of just fun woodworking stuff. Every single instructor is white. And so I came to them and just said, all right, y'all, we have to figure out something to diversify this. What are we going to do? And one of my volunteers got in touch with a Native Alaskan woman that's a birch bark basket maker. And she said, well, I would be interested in doing that, but are you going to pay me? And like, we're talking like Woodfest is like all of my they've just volunteered for years because this is just a group of people that just loves what they do and that's what they want to do, you know, for free. But she said, are you going to pay me? And I was like, we can pay her. We can totally pay her. I contacted a donor and said, I have this person who wants to be paid in cash. Would you like to make a cash donation so that I can pay this person? And that worked out. And then she said, my car is broken down. Can someone give me a ride? And I found a volunteer to go pick her up and take her home every day. And it was incredible. This woman sat around at the event and made baskets and really just told stories for 2 days. Like it was super cool. And one day she also invited several of her cousins to come and they all just sat around and talked. And I mean, she's 80 years old. So she had just an unbelievable amount of stories about growing up. You know, she was great. You know, she grew up in the bush and it was super cool. So it's a great lesson that we really have to reach out in ways that I never thought we would need to, for sure. And I have also 2 classes on the calendar with Native Alaskan instructors. I have a caribou tufting on moose hide and also making a kuspuk, which is a traditional Inuit tunic. A lot of people call it a berry picking tunic. And so that's huge. And I also like made, you know, this woman said, well, I need $65 per student. And normally for this class, I would offer $50 per student. But I, you know, just adjusted the numbers and was like, we'll make it work. And same for the other class. It's 2 sisters that are teaching it together. And they were like, well, that's not really quite enough because there are 2 instructors. And I was like, all right, we'll adjust. So anyway, that feels huge that we've already made some progress. And then we're also implementing diversity, equity, accessibility, inclusion check-ins at our board meetings every month, which really keeps me moving forward so that I have something to report at every board meeting. And also hopefully a little bit of a challenge for the board members to say, okay, well, what are we doing this month to move this agenda forward? And then last I have, so this is our rat card, which ended up looking a little bit funny on the second page, but this is the back. The white is funky. But anyway, this is our new rat
just
card.
That it's transparent.
Yeah, I think so.
Background didn't show up.
Yeah, no matter what I did to the background, you still couldn't see the top. But that's the new card. So that's in the visitor center in downtown Fairbanks. So we changed out several photos. And then this is our poster, which is outside of our building, both of our buildings at Pioneer Park, which both look great. And then my reflections. It was in the first meeting, it was really tough to hear the criticisms of the group, but I was really glad that they felt comfortable enough to be really honest. And it was very helpful to me in breaking down a lot of my own personal barriers of, I think, and the next one, this kind of relates to, I challenged myself to make no excuses Like, I've done that. Well, we tried that. I really wanted to make an effort not to do that and just be open to whatever ideas they had. I managed to assemble a really incredible group of women, and 6 meetings was just, Dawn, I'm sure there's research on this, but 6 meetings was like the perfect amount of time. It was like enough to really gain some momentum. But then at the end, it felt like, okay, I think we're ready to wrap this up and move into the next phase for sure. From the first meeting, I felt really energized to make changes right away. I mean, right when the meeting was over, I got on and emailed my coworkers and said, oh, we got to change our website photos tomorrow. This is step one. The Participatory Action Research, when Dawn first mentioned it and started talking about it, I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, I don't even really understand what this is. And it felt like, oh, am I going to do this right? And do I have all the pieces in place? How do I talk about this? I'm not a researcher, but it was actually really simple. Once I just got started with it, it felt like a natural flow. So I think it's something that has a label that is really happening on a regular basis. And I just want to add too, I think though, Dawn, that it really helped me become a better meeting facilitator, this process. I felt like I really wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. I mean, meetings, you know how they are, they really have a tendency to run over, and you could talk forever with some people, but we were on the ball every week. And like, when there was 10 minutes left, even if it didn't feel like we were done, it's like, yeah, we got to wrap up. What are our action steps? So I felt like that was a real benefit for me. And just that I realized, man, this is a long road. And even coming out of this with a really great plan, there's still so much work to be done. And just taking those baby steps is really important. I try every week to just make some little leap forward. And just knowing that it's not going to change overnight. Just like our whole culture, we're up against something pretty big. But it feels great to take those small steps in the right direction. Yeah.
Cool.
And that's it. That's what I got.